Thank you, Dr. Faustin, for a wonderful talk. Many of you may recognize Dr. Faustin from the Olympics, where she was fairly prominent at moments with Simone Biles and some of the other U.S. Women gymnasts who went on to win gold for us in Paris. And we're very fortunate to have Dr. Faustin with us live right now. Good morning, Dr. Faustin.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Fishman and Dr. Lochner.
Morning. Thank you for your inspiring talk.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be a part of this.
Wonderful. Well, we have a couple questions for you from the audience. And the first is, how does someone get going in terms of motivation? What's the most effective way, just beyond information, to get yourself going from really a sedentary lifestyle?
The first two things I think of is setting goals. I think setting both short-term goals, I'm talking like maybe 1, 2, 3 days of the week, and then setting those long-term goals. What are you looking to get to? What's your goal maybe for the summer to be able to go on an international trip or to go on vacation and not be in so much pain? And I think then after you set those goals, then having an accountability partner. Let somebody else know what your goals are. And then I always say, try to pull somebody in. For myself, I got my husband to do triathlons with me, and it's really kept us accountable to each other. And you feel more motivated, and it's more fun to just be able to do it with somebody else.
How about wearables? How do you feel about wearables such as Apple Watch or Fitbit in helping to monitor performance and exercise? And what are the key metrics to watch?
Oh, this is a great question. There are many, many different wearables out there. Even just your phone is tracking you, even if you don't have an Apple Watch or a Fitbit. But I think that goes back to setting those goals and being able to see them tangibly. If you're trying to set, whether that's 10,000 steps or you're just trying to do 2,000 steps a day, and it helps you to stay motivated and to know if you're reaching those goals or not. And so I do think it could be beneficial. I do think on the other side, to be mindful of your own self and your own awareness of, does it create more anxiety for you? Sometimes if I am on the Peloton bike, it lets you see all the other people that are training with you. And some days it's making me feel worse about myself and I feel like I'm not accomplishing my goals. And so I turn it off, and other days I'm feeling really motivated. And so it is helpful. And I think having awareness of helps you to see your goals and see if you're accomplishing them. And if you feel like you're discouraged by that, then don't wear them. And you continue to stay motivated within yourself and with that accountability partner. And I think for me, the biggest metrics is probably, and the easiest one is the amount of steps you're taking a day and what that looks like for you.
Well, here's a question around the difference between static and what the questioner calls outdoor education or exercise, as opposed to say being on a stationary bike or even being on a bicycle versus being in full motion when one exercises. Do you have any recommendations on that?
I think movement is movement, whether you're on your bike inside or if you're on your bike outside. I do think that there is a benefit. We have the beauty of being in California where, despite it being 100 degrees in October, we've got really great weather. And I grew up in the Chicagoland area where there were many, many months that you can't go outside to exercise, but we know that nature is great for our nervous system. And so anytime you can get outside, I think it can be beneficial. But any movement that you're able to do, how big or small, if you start off small and then you get used to that movement, then you move to bigger movements and whatever that may look like for you.
Perfect.
I know that you addressed mental health benefits of exercise. And the question is, how long does it take to achieve and start to see those benefits after you begin an exercise program?
This is a great question. I'm not sure if they know, and you guys may be able to tell me exactly if we know a timeline of when people start to feel better. In my head, I think of 2 weeks, 2 weeks in order to make something a habit that's not as difficult to get started again. And potentially some may feel the benefit that same day, right? If I've gone a long time without exercising and then I go for a workout, I do feel a little bit better because it's releasing those great hormones in our brain and the good hormones that give us that boost within ourselves and that adrenaline. So I would say it could be as short as that same day, but over time, I think the added benefit is seeing yourself set goals, accomplish those goals, being able to do more of the activities that you'd like to do that improve your quality of life. And I think those all compound together to really improve that mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
One question that came across is, what's the value of resistance exercise as opposed to aerobic exercise? And is it okay just to do aerobic exercise or just do resistance exercise or even flexibility? So the first part is about what's the benefit of resistance, and then what about the diversity?
Yes. So we know with the resistance training, well, first I'll say you want that combination of really getting the aerobic exercise and the resistance training. I really think of strength training, getting yourself stronger. And, you know, an easy example with the gymnast, right? They can do handstands and hold it for so long. And sometimes people just have difficulty standing on one leg at a time. And really that's strength. And if we can get your strength better, it can decrease your risks of falls. It can decrease your risk of other injuries that come up. And say, for example, you're walking along and you step off the curb and you kind of go a little bit off kilter because you ran into somebody. Your strength and that resistance training is what helps hold you stable so you don't fall and you don't hit that ground and you can keep yourself as healthy as possible. Whereas the aerobic training is also great for muscle endurance and, more importantly, maybe for your cardiovascular health, right? Your risk of heart attacks, your risk of strokes, your risk decreasing your weight, which can decrease your risk of cancers. And so it's really that combination of exercise that they have found is most beneficial for you. And I think the other priority is find exercise that you enjoy doing. If it's too painful, you can only sustain it for so long, and having a variety in what that exercise looks like for you.
Thank you.
So a question came in that's a good one regarding the recommended exercise and activities over time. For example, does it change from a person who's 30 to a person who's 65? Do you have any additional recommendations as we age? Does the exercise prescription, so to speak, change or get altered at all?
The recommended exercise is the 150 minutes a week. That's what's recommended. And however somebody may break that up, is up to their kind of lifestyle and what works for them. Some people cannot exercise during the week because they have multiple jobs and they're taking care of family members or their children, and it's just not possible. And some can get all those minutes in over the weekend, or our weekend warriors that are able to do that. I think the way I think about it is not really in terms of the difference in ages, whether you're young versus whether you're old, but I think of thinking it in ways of, how do I improve my muscle endurance and my muscle strength? And so the example I like to give is, if you're somebody and you want to run a half marathon and you want to get to 13 miles, if you're only running 3 miles every time for years on end, it won't really get you to that goal of that 13 miles. And the way you think about it is, even if your goal is to be able to walk to grab your mail, to be able to walk there, come back and feel okay. After you're able to do that, then you want to say, okay, let me go around the block. Let me see how much endurance I can get. Or if you're like my mother, you might say, let me go around all of Home Goods and then Ross and Nordstrom Racks, and be able to have the endurance to spend the day out, run your errands, get back home and not feel exhausted. And so I think of it as just continuing to build on whatever exercise you're doing and continuing that for a lifetime.
So let's say you make that decision to change and go from a fairly sedentary lifestyle to an exercise lifestyle. What should the expectations be about how long it takes, how fast you should start, and when should you see benefits in terms of your physical changes, with endurance, as you said, but also in maybe the way your body looks, and then also your mental health?
I think when somebody's ready to start that exercise routine, first and foremost, really talking to your primary care physician about that, or whatever physician you may have who is taking care of you, to make sure that there are no other factors that we need to take into account and that you are as healthy as possible before starting that exercise routine. So always checking in with your doctor first. And then as you then get started, I usually tell patients 2 weeks. 2 weeks, even for myself, even for my Olympic athletes, we know it takes about 2 weeks before people are like, okay, this is not as painful for me to get up and get running or get up and go to the gym. And you kind of start to make that a habit. And I think they say it's usually 21 days to make something a habit. And so then after you start that habit, then you'll start to see those changes over days to weeks to months, whatever that may look like. But what I usually try to tell patients, especially those that may have diabetes or coronary artery disease or other metabolic syndrome or risk factors for heart attacks or strokes, is that you may not always see a big change in the scale. And I actually don't always recommend people to even have a scale to use. But what you're going to know is that even if your weight is not changing, that inside what's happening within your blood vessels, that is changing. And we can see that through the blood work that you're getting regularly. And that also is a great motivator to keep people moving, because we know we're decreasing your risk of those bad health outcomes by just getting you moving. And the other important thing is muscle weighs more than fat. And so you may be getting on the scale and saying, I don't understand why my weight is going up, is because you're gaining more muscle for yourself. And the other thing to pay attention to is, what do your clothes fit like? You know, sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I had to get a new belt, or I had to get a new pair of pants or a new top. And those are indicators that you are making those changes to help keep everybody motivated to moving forward within that.
Do you have any advice for changes in the season? I know it's 100 degrees outside, but fall and winter are around the corner, we trust. Any specific recommendations related to exercise? Do you alter your recommendations any more, any less, different types?
You know, I would say here in California, not really. You know, there's always an opportunity that you can just layer on. I think being smart about when you're going outside, maybe in the fall or the winter, when it may be colder, you may put on more layers. But instead of just having one heavy layer, to really have different layers on, because as you start exercising, you're going to gain that heat, and you don't want to get overheated by underestimating that temperature and how much exercise you're doing. So I always say, have a couple layers on that you can pull off a jacket, tie it around your waist while you're finishing your walking, and being mindful of that. Another form of exercise that I love and I highly recommend is if you have access to a pool to exercise, you know, and there are many different pools around the areas where they're heated in the winter. And so you can go and do those water aerobic classes, or you can go swimming and get your movement in that way. And so I think just being prepared for what that weather looks like, but always trying to get outside.
Great. So as you're adapting to doing the exercise and starting to see the effects, how do you recommend people should change their diets? Or should they be watching for anything in particular in terms of the food as fuel, as you said, and the nutrition of someone just starting out to exercise or getting into that flying altitude where they're feeling comfortable?
Well, I would say regarding diet and exercise, I actually like my patients to just choose one to focus on at a time. I think it feels a little bit less overwhelming than trying to make all these big changes in your life. And I'm a big person on baby changes, small changes, because if we make too many big dietary changes, saying I'm not going to eat any sweets or any fried foods, and I'm only going to eat healthy, and I'm going to start this exercise routine, it's difficult to sustain. I can't sustain it personally, you know, understanding the importance of this and doing athletics for a very long time. And so I think what the goal is always 80-20. 80% of the time you're doing the right things, which is what most people, I think, have the basic foundation of eating healthy, trying to avoid fried food. Eat your fruits, your vegetables. You need protein to build bone or to build muscle. And then you also need carbohydrates to build energy. And so really, if you can sit down and create even a food diary for about 3 days. Look at what you're eating. Look at what time you're eating. And then after people actually have an idea of what they are eating in the day, they can say, okay, what do I think I can cut out? And slowly work your way towards cutting out things that may not be as healthy, or increasing your protein, I think is a good one because it helps keep you full for a longer period of time, and making those small changes. And I think having that diary with you or something written, or whether it's in your phone, that way it allows you to look back even a month and say, oh, when you're feeling discouraged or feeling like, gosh, I feel like I'm not making any changes, you look at what your food diary looks 30 days later to what it was before, and you're going to see those changes, and that'll help move you towards that right direction. And then seeing your physicians, and you can always get referred to a nutritionist. There's a lot of information online in making those adjustments for your diet.
So we're going to have one last question, and then we'll close out this session.
So this question is back to the strength resistance training. Do you have a preference for people? Do you have a recommendation whether they start as a beginner with weights, start with body weight, start with bands? What suggestions would you have for a beginner who's looking for a starting place for resistance training?
This is a great question. I would say first and foremost, start with body weight, sorry. An easy thing you can do on your own is just stand up, stand on one leg, see what your balance looks like. This is something we do in clinic often, and working your way towards being able to do a single leg balance. How long can you hold that foot up? Whether that might be an easy way is when you're brushing your teeth. And then holding on to a table or a counter and doing squats. 3 sets of 5 squats, and see how you do with that. Doing lunges, see how you do with that. And there's a lot of resources online, but you start slow. And then as things get easier, if you're doing those exercises over and over again, and you're like, okay, that was easy, then you know you need to increase it. Whether that may be adding in resistance bands, or you can add in weights, or you can add in the number that you're doing. So if you're doing 3 sets of 5 squats, now you can do 3 sets of 10 squats. Because when you're done exercising, you want to be a little bit sore and know that you're making some progress within that.
Dr. Faustin, I want to thank you for an incredible lecture and for answering all our questions, for all you do for our athletes here and nationally, for our country. You have our gratitude. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me a part of this program.